What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus package update, daily news, pretty much everything going on here in our country, money, investing, the stock market, and in Washington, D.C. Remember that new videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, it's completely free to do so. Make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new videos. And if you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below. We got a lot to cover here today. We're going to hear directly from a senator on the next stimulus package, as well as the debt limit, which has not been settled yet. They have not raised the debt limit. They have funded the government on and prevented a government shutdown. But the debt limit to prevent the country from defaulting has not been settled yet. The estimated date, the earliest it can be the country could default or the Treasury could run out of money is December 15th, which is 10 days or less away. In fact, they have a new strategy now, as you can see here. The Senate leaders are facing pushback on a new strategy where they're potentially trying to tie the debt limit or the debt new fight to the defense bill, where the National Defense Authorization Act to fund the military. They're potentially now trying to link those two together to push both of them through. So the debt limit and the NDAA. Yeah, you can see here, Senate leadership is facing bipartisan pushback over one option floated for raising the country's debt ceiling, tying it to a sweeping defense bill. The path has potential benefits by tying a deeply partisan debt limit fight to the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, which typically passes with wide bipartisan support, typically, although we know that that actually failed a vote here just a few days ago. So, yeah, that has its problems as well. Leadership takes two items off Congress's packed year-end to-do list ahead of the December 15th deadline for taking action on the debt limit or the debt ceiling. But the idea is already sending off alarm bells on both sides of the Capitol. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer and House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, who agree on little these days, are warning that a defense bill that includes a debt ceiling hike would struggle to clear the chamber. Quote, "We've told the Senate that that's the reality. Those are the numbers," Hoyer said. Hoyer confirmed that the option has been discussed by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Republican Leader Mitch McConnell, but added, "We don't think it's the best option because we're not sure we can do it, and we have to pass the debt limit to prevent the country from defaulting." House Speaker Nancy Pelosi declined to comment on the issues, aside from the vowing that we meet our deadlines. The House passed a defense bill, but the Senate has not. Back in September, at the time, 38 Democratic lawmakers voted against it, but the bill was able to pass because it garnered enough support from 135 Republicans and 181 Democrats. The House is expected to vote on an NDAA again next week, according to a scheduling update from Steny Hoyer, and may also consider legislation to address the debt limit, but gave no indication if the two would be linked. In the Senate previously, 11 Republican senators helped advance the $480 billion debt limit hike as part of a deal offered by Mitch McConnell, though all Republicans voted against it on the final vote because the Republicans didn't need it on the final vote. Senate Republicans have vowed that they won't help Democrats advance the debt limit hike again, urging their colleagues to handle it by themselves using a complex procedure known as budget reconciliation, which would allow them to bypass the 60-vote filibuster and only pass it with 50 to 51 votes. Republicans are offering to expedite that process down to a matter of days in an effort to defang the Democratic criticism that they don't have enough time to go through the cumbersome reconciliation process. Yeah, so now that the government funding bill has passed and we've averted a government shutdown that is only until February 18th now, the next main deadline is to avert the government default, the debt limit or the debt ceiling. Okay. Meanwhile, the Democrats are also working on the stimulus package on the own Democratic side, right? Remember, the Republicans aren't going to vote for that. It's all Democrats. Okay. But we also have this looming debt limit that they have to do to prevent the government from defaulting. We've heard multiple times from the Treasury Secretary, even from the President, and from the Senate Majority Leader that if they default, it has multiple consequences. It could delay Social Security payments. I even read you an article like yesterday that also backed that up. I think it was from NBC. We also have it could delay child tax credit payments as well. It almost certainly would delay bond payments and payments to the military. Pretty much anything having to do with money coming from the government could be delayed or not sent out because the Treasury Department of the United States would literally run out of money. The US government would be in default because if the Treasury can't print more money and the government is already running a deficit, right? We know that the government runs at a deficit. They don't, we're not net positive, right? We spend more money than we take in. That's why we have a deficit of 28 or 29 trillion dollars. Okay, if we look at just what former President Donald Trump did in 4 years, he spent about $8 trillion in deficit just in 4 years. So that means on every year, he added about $2 trillion to the deficit. Now, some of that came in big packages like the 2017 Trump tax cuts and the stimulus packages, but that just gives you a good, nice overview, right? Now, Biden hasn't even been in office for a year, and he passed one stimulus package that added $1.9 trillion to the deficit. But it gives you an idea that the government is just spending more money than they take in, whether it's Republican or Democrat. Okay. I'm not either of them. I consider myself an independent and neutral. But whether it's Republican or Democrat, the government just spends more money than they take in. It doesn't matter what side you're on, it's just kind of how the government runs. Okay. Just how it is. Okay. So the government is just spending more money than they take in. So the problem is if the government can't pass this debt limit, which allows the government to print more money, they have to actually pass a bill to just allow the government to do that. They won't be able to fulfill their debt obligations just from the past debt that we owe, just the interest that we owe. Okay. It's ridiculous that they have to even do this, which is why many Democrats and past Republicans, the Republicans are mum on this right now because it's kind of a power play for them at the moment, but in the past, Republicans have said this as well. They should get rid of the debt limit. It's redundant. They don't really need it. All it does is put us in danger of defaulting and the full faith and credit of the United States just going and our economy just from collapsing, right? And here we are down to a matter of days that this could happen yet again. We shouldn't be down to a matter of days of having our entire economic system from collapsing and people's payments from not going out. Anybody getting money from the government, Social Security checks, child tax credit checks, SSI, SSDI, bond interest payments, treasury bonds, anything coming from the government should not be at risk. It's supposed to be the full faith and credit of the US government, right? Nonetheless, here we are waiting on Congress to figure it out. And, well, Congress are always at the last moment. I mean, they literally passed a government funding bill to prevent a government shutdown in less than 24 hours. And in 2018 and 2019, we had government shutdowns. And sometimes we've had government shutdowns for a prolonged period of time just because they can't agree on things. That shouldn't be the case. That shouldn't be the case. So we've actually had a lot of arguments saying that they should get rid of the debt limit or they should pass on the responsibility to raise the debt limit onto somebody like the Treasury Secretary. Okay. So it's not Congress fighting and, political things like Republicans and Democrats trying to negotiate their own political, I want this and I want that, and not taking the best interests of the country, trying to negotiate things in there like, I want border wall funding in there, or I want something for this political package, or I want something for the president, trying not to pick side here, just trying to give you examples, right? Um, those type of things shouldn't be negotiated in there when we're talking about like major things that, we can't have a collapse of our economic system, right? So I think at some point they need to get rid of this debt limit because remember, all this spending pretty much has to be agreed upon anyways by Congress in the first place. And then they have this debt limit as like a redundant system on top of that. It's like an unnecessary checks and balance on top of the check and balance. So I'll keep you up to date here. It's like a train wreck getting closer and closer and closer. So next up, we'll have Senator Dick Durbin with his thoughts on the stimulus package and going forward, what we're going to be seeing happen here. Check this out.
Senator, another issue, of course, before the Senate is the Build Back Better bill, priority for the president and for the Democrats right now. There's not only solid Republican opposition to that, you still have some Democrats who have issues with it, including your colleagues, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Kirsten Sinema of Arizona. You said, I believe earlier today that they, and I'm looking at what I saw you were quoted, you said it's time for them to get on board with Build Back Better. Have you heard from them? Have you spoken with them?
No, I haven't. We're being very careful in terms of negotiation. We are literally down to 1 or 2 votes as to whether this moves forward. It's a massive undertaking in terms of the impact on families across America who are dealing with the rising cost of living. We want to make sure that we help those families, and we need all 50 Democrats to make that happen. I don't want to jinx the deal by getting involved in it at some stage here and talking too much or too little. I think we're on track, but ultimately any single senator can stop this effort.
And I want to ask you, Senator, about another aspect that's been a hang-up in the Build Back Better bill, and that has to do with expanding the state and local tax deductions. Is that going to be in the bill, what some Democrats have urged?
I think it will be. The exact language, I'm not sure. But here's what it boils down to, Judy. If you and I are paying our property taxes on our homes, the question is, should we be taxed by the federal government on the taxes we paid? A tax on a tax. I can just tell you historically the answer was no. We had an exemption. If you paid a tax, you don't have to pay a federal tax on that tax. And now the latest Republican undertaking 4 years ago in tax reform imposed a new tax on a tax. We're trying to get back to the stage where people don't have to face that double taxation. I support it. There may be some variations on the theme as we get close to it, but I think the principle is sound. Next week is really the key week when it comes to reconciliation, because we've had the parliamentarian, Senate parliamentarian. She's played an important role in deciding what issues are eligible for this bill. And then after she's made her decision, we've got to make a final decision on what to present on the floor as early as the middle of December.
Finally, Senator, I want to turn you to the question of COVID in your home state of Illinois. As the country now bracing for this new variant, Omicron, I was reading today that Illinois health officials reporting more than 6,100 new cases, the most in a single day since January in your home state. Why do you think this is happening?
It's happening because everyone in America is not vaccinated. That would not be the end of the threat, but it would certainly lessen the likelihood that these variants would emerge or that we would be vulnerable to them when they did. Listen, when a group of Republican senators and the Republican Party decide on a political basis to exempt certain Americans from a mutual responsibility to one another, we pay the consequences. We face those consequences. It's unfortunate that this is a situation. We have to make the best of it. Those of us who are vaccinated have to encourage everyone who isn't to think about it again.
And just quickly, to those who say that not enough testing is part of the problem, what's being done to address that?
Well, a couple weeks ago, I went over to Scotland to this meeting on the environment, In a matter of 24 or 36 hours, I must have been tested 6 different times and reported to the British Health Service each time. It is true that other countries are clearly doing more testing, and we should too. I think it'd be good for America, and I hope more people will cooperate. First, get vaccinated, but if you don't, get tested regularly and observe the most basic things about social distancing and washing your hands.
Yeah, now with this new Omicron variant spreading here, it's now in at least 12 different states here. I mean, things are going to be very, very different. We now have the state of Oregon considering permanent indoor mask mandates. I played that for you in the previous video here before this. And we have the US already imposing travel restrictions from South African countries. We have multiple different countries in Europe doing lockdowns. So, yeah, literally right now, we have Austria and Germany literally imposing new lockdowns right now. We have other countries that are imposing fines for unvaccinated individuals. Yep. So the question is going to be, what is going to happen here going forward? Now that this new variant, Omicron, is just now spreading and the whole world is really concerned about this, where are we going to be here in the next 30 to 60 to 90 days? Because it's really just now here. It's in at least 12 different states. And it's probably just a matter of time here before it's, in all the states. Let me know your thoughts. Are you concerned about this? Yeah, it just feels like it's deja vu all over here again. Are we ever going to be done with this virus? Yeah. And now we have the vaccine makers are considering possibly redoing their vaccines for this Omicron variant, which is kind of crazy because they didn't do that for the Delta variant. But now they're saying that this new Omicron variant is different enough that they may need to redo their vaccine. And if they need to redo their vaccine, does that mean that people need to go get revaccinated? That poses an interesting question. And what about people that already have 2 or 3 shots? What does that mean for people going forward? Do they need to go get new sets of shots? Yeah, it just feels like the never-ending story. If you've seen that movie, that was one of my favorite movies as a child, and I'm 40 years old here. So that was a long time ago. And the never ending story is still never ending. The 40-year-old story is just still going on here. It feels like it's a 40-year-old story, right? But yeah, I mean, the vaccine makers are considering redoing their vaccines. Uh, Now they say that could take up to 100 days, which is 3+ months. 3+ months is going to take us into, let's see here, January would be 30 days, February would be 60 days, March would be 90 days. We'd be in mid-March by the time that's even at the earliest possible. Who knows what will be in mid-March? Yeah, that's at the earliest, right? I mean, that's like at the best timeline. So, yeah. I don't know if anybody's looking forward to taking new vaccines. Yeah. Just can we ever go back to normal? Are we gonna ever be able to go back to normal? Yeah. Now we got states that are talking about permanent mask mandates. Yeah. And now, I mean, at least we have the government passing. We have several new stimulus checks coming out here from states. We had Tennessee that just passed a $950 stimulus check to group for Tennessee. Is it Tennesseans? Tennesseans? I'm not familiar with that one. You have to let me know in the comments. But we have several different states passing stimulus checks. We have a large push right now for people to have a holiday check here from the federal government before the holidays. I just covered that in the previous video. We have the state of California issuing state stimulus checks. We have the state of Illinois pushing for a $200 to $400 stimulus check. We have Maine sending out a $285 state stimulus check. Did I cover them all? Yeah, we have several different states covering or sending out stimulus checks here. So hopefully we have more. And then we have a lot of cities doing city stimulus checks and then universal basic income stimulus checks here. So I will keep you up to date on all of them here. So make sure to subscribe down below. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll link you to some of those videos I recently covered here. You can click here to watch my newest video next. This video is the push for the $2,000 holiday stimulus check. And this video is that new recent state stimulus check for $950. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.